What's up, everyone? We are back with another episode for Project Rookie. This is episode 10, and we're joined again by a special guest from London. His name is Alec Jarmain. He's 20 years old, studying in the business school at Marquette University. He's a triple major in the AIM program, which is Accelerating Ingenuity in Markets, and then Finance and Information Systems. So we have a info-packed episode. And Alex, what was your favorite part about our episode with Alec today?
I would have to say my favorite part was his ability to start his business venture of his rental business, and two, to kind of see a need that isn't met and try and pursue that and take it into a channel where it could potentially become an idea as well. And I think that Alec kind of is an example of kind of those young achievers and really that next generation that we're trying to showcase and get brought on to the show. And I think he really had some great experiences that will be insightful for the listeners. But at the same time, I found it was funny that he brought up his discovery of a business through TikTok. Actually, for those who've been following from the beginning, Jet and I kind of seeked out a way to kind of uncover the do's and don'ts of what people are saying for starting a business on social media. So I think there's a lot of great things and good takeaways. So I'm excited for the viewers to hear.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And you'll see that Alec is super involved in school and is also a little entrepreneur. He just takes advantages of opportunities, pays attention to stuff, and it's kind of just like a go for it type of person. And I think just really embodies what we're trying to communicate and the message we're trying to spread with Project Rookie. So I hope you guys enjoy. And let's get Alec on the pod. Welcome to Project Rookie. I'm Jet.
And I'm Alex. Whether you're in high school, college, or taking the first steps in a new career,
we are here to uncover the promising tactics, genuine struggles, and inspiring victories that are supercharging the next generation of achievers. Thanks for tuning in.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual speakers and do not reflect the official policies or positions of their respective employers. Individuals on this podcast are not licensed financial or investment advisors, and its contents should not be used as investment advice.
All right, guys, we got Alec Jarmain here with us. And ironically, if you listen to our episode with Hannah Getman, she was in London at the time, and Alec is also joining us from London. So I thought it was going to be a late night and he's ready for bed, but apparently the London schedule is a little different than I thought. But I'll give you a sec to give a quick intro. What's your elevator pitch, Alec? Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alec Jarmain. I'm a sophomore at Marquette University, studying finance, AIM, and information systems. I'm from Horicon, Wisconsin, small town between Appleton, Madison, and Milwaukee. I'm hoping to work in corporate finance or banking.
Sweet. All right. You got a ton of interesting stuff to chat about. So let's get it's funny that study abroad I think is the least interesting part, but let's get London as a topic out of the way. So first of all, what are you studying in London? How long are you there? Why are you in London?
So I always knew I wanted to go abroad in college. I went abroad in high school to Spain for a month going into my senior year. I always was studying Spanish, so I went to Spain just to kind of passion for Spanish. And then I knew I wanted to go abroad in college. I didn't want to go back to Spain for the sake of all the schools there weren't really near the beach, and I didn't really want to go to Barcelona because I heard it's a bit sketchy. And I want to be in the beach if I was in Spain. So London was the next best option, as it's like the center of this side of the world. So I figured there's everything I'd ever need here in London. And I didn't really want to have to learn a foreign language either. I just kind of wanted to chill before I had my second was college. But yeah, London is great. There's everything you could imagine here. I probably hear people speaking English less than I do any other language. It's just there's any single kind of person you imagine is here. The tube is great. The London Underground get anywhere in like 20 minutes. And the city is like the biggest city, I think, in Europe, maybe. Um, I know it's bigger than like Chicago, New York, and like Houston combined. It's the city, like the perimeter
Wow.
itself is huge. And then
Yeah.
right now I'm
Sweet.
just studying.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
good.
just taking a couple general business classes. I'm taking business law because you're in business, that checked off a lot of boxes when you were graduating. So it's cool. I can learn about American and British law, which is pretty much the same anyways. And I'm taking international finance because it's a hard one at Marquette, and it's pretty easy over here. And then I'm taking a Spanish class because it's pretty easy and I can just get free credit for that. Nothing I really have to study for. And then I'm taking a football or soccer, like history, economics, statistics. It's just basically every single subject in school with the application of football. So it's really interesting. Like tomorrow, in 2 days, we're like touring Arsenal, the stadium of Arsenal,
wow.
like the
That's
biggest club in
awesome.
London. Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then I'm taking a historic class about London. So that's just basically fun. It's not really too hard.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. And kind of you're getting your hands kind of in a bunch of different curriculum areas itself. But could you maybe go over what it was like kind of picking those classes? Maybe for those who are thinking of going abroad, kind of go into your thought process a little on how you decided on taking maybe the international finance there, or even taking the business law and kind of seeing how it differs from country to country.
Yeah, for international finance and business law, I have to take them for my major. Like they're one of the options I can take. So I knew I wanted to get them out of the way before starting junior and senior year. And I kind of figured those two classes would be good to have from like an international scope, like definitely international finance in a foreign country, learning a lot about kind of the English and European point of view of like the macro economy. So it's pretty interesting in that sense. And then business law too. Get to learn about European law just as much as I'm learning about American law. So kind of get even like a wider scope of things. And then the unit Marquette recommends that you take some of the cultural classes, like the football class and that history class. Those are really only geared for exchange students. There's no other like regular university students in those. So it's pretty fun. And yeah, you get like an actual taste of London. And then you're only supposed to take 4 classes, but they said if you want to take a additional class, it had to be a language class. And I figured might as well take a easy Spanish class and then just kind of cook the books and get the credit back at Marquette.
So I guess I have a few things. Is the school you're at basically, is it all foreign exchange students, or are you kind of at a school that's a normal university in London and you're just similar to how we would have a foreign exchange student at Marquette?
Yeah, it's the same exact thing. I mean, they have a really nice abroad program. They really have it structured pretty well. It's rated pretty well for exchange students. But yeah, in a lot of my classes, there's no exchange students other than the 2 that are only exchange students. But my other classes, it's just as many regular students as any other class would be at Marquette.
So yeah, that piques my curiosity, because if it's a normal UK or London-based university, how do with a business law class, are they, let's say, more weighted towards the local law there, or do they do actually a pretty good job of balancing like comparison between United States law and UK law?
Yeah, like a good 50-50, I'd say, because
That's
a lot
sweet.
of it's really that the 2 legal systems in the United States and United Kingdom are very similar. So I guess when they were going over the structure of government, they were kind of tying a lot of parallels to United Kingdom's system and the American system. But for like the actual cases itself, it's more so not like memorizing names, specific numbers, and like case codes. It's just kind of like being able to dig up the relevant information from a case and seeing why this led to that, which is equally as applicable in the United States as it is in London. Or you
Interesting. Have you kind of reflecting on your studies? Is there kind of anything that's really stuck out so far, or kind of something that's you learned and it kind of caught your interest and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that, and it's kind of translated both between law and here in the US and law over there?
Nothing really from the law point of view, because I didn't really have any knowledge about law going into this class, other than I took like business law in high school, and that was really nothing. It was over the COVID year, so I didn't really learn anything from that.
Yeah.
But more so, I guess, in the international finance scope, it's just kind of interesting to see how like the different viewpoints of the different culture are about like the whole macro economy. And definitely, like we talked about 2008, and it kind of just it was kind of like a different vibe than I feel like if someone would have talked about it in the United States.
How long have you been in London now?
Maybe like a month and a half. About, yeah.
Okay, so in that month and a half, what would you say is like the coolest experience or your favorite experience that you had so far, that maybe if someone wasn't able to go study abroad in London, you wish that, you know, they could have?
Definitely like hitting the downtown, like the Piccadilly Circus. It's kind of like the Times Square of London. It's just where everything is, everything's happening, there's people moving. But yeah, just going down there and kind of just checking out the local scene. It's been really interesting because I guess from my experience at bars in the United States, it's kind of like people kind of stick to themselves, but here everyone just kind of like having a good time and like gathering around and like belting out in song with complete strangers. So it's kind of cool in that sense.
That's a unique parallel in comparison to some of the places I've been around here, but it's super cool to hear about that. And I know you haven't really been there for all too long, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other experiences and such that are going to come about. So now that I know this may be a little early, but seeing kind of what it's like over there and everything like that, has the thought ever kind of came to mind, like, oh, maybe I wouldn't mind coming over here for a little bit longer than just a study abroad trip, or maybe I wouldn't mind kind of translating my own interests into facilitating business internationally, or you know, wherever it may be other than just here in the US?
Yeah, there was definitely like one night where I was like coming home like with like a bunch of friends. We just had like a night out, and I was like, man, I want to like live here when I'm older. This is like the coolest city I've ever been in my entire life. And just going all over Europe too. Like I've been to now Germany, and Switzerland, and then Wales, and then next week I'm going to France actually. So like just getting the whole sense of Europe. They have like the whole continent, I feel, has like that. I guess you couldn't really connect to the United States because, you know, the United States is pretty much its own continent in that sense. But it's cool. You go to like all the different cultures, and people kind of just, it's like one sort of vibe. I can't even really put into words. But it's just the unity of Europe is really interesting, and there's just kind of like a suave feeling about it.
Have you ever asked some of your colleagues there what their thoughts on American students are? Do they have any interesting takes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said before we started, I got really close with a group of Italian people, and then a couple Spanish people as well. And they said I don't seem like the cliche Americans, a cliche American, but they said that definitely some of the other people on the exchange program that they met from America are kind of like what they think of an American, in like the sense that they're, oh yeah, America's the best. Man, I miss this about home. Like this place kind of sucks. And they said I don't really kind of give off that vibe, but they said that's definitely not everyone because obviously they met Americans before.
That's funny. Okay, so moving on from London, you seem to be pretty involved in school. Between like being a teaching assistant for LEAD, which is like the business, and we'll call it like early career class at Marquette, and then you had a marketing internship with Marquette, and you're in the business fraternity and chess club. Are those all correct?
Yeah. I guess I'll just start from like my least involved. So yeah, the chess club I signed up for, and I went like maybe a few times. Just with everything else, it's so busy. Like they meet on Saturdays, and I don't really have a Saturday free, or if I do, I'm doing something else because it's kind of like my only free time, I'd say, back at home. And then the business fraternity, yeah, I joined that last semester, just to kind of like boost my resume, get something on there, you know. It was pretty cool. It's nothing like DKI in the sense that it is a professional fraternity, and there's not like a house, but that is like more of a professional fraternity.
I was just gonna ask, what is the name of the business fraternity that you're part of?
Oh, the Delta Sigma Pi.
Just for maybe some of the people at home who are listening, you know, and are looking for some options or outlets to maybe network and connect with some more like-minded people.
Yeah, what type of activities are you involved with, or like as a member of the business or professional fraternity, what type of activities does that involve? And it's also co-ed, right?
Yeah, it's co-ed. Yeah, they bring in speakers from like local companies, and they just kind of talk about what the company does. Maybe like there's some networking usually at the end. It's a really good source though for like internships. I know a lot of like there's a big email thing on Outlook that there's always people that were in it past years and always saying like, hey, we're having an internship opening, so take a look at it and we could definitely like move you to the top. So it's really good in that sense. It is a professional fraternity, so they do that well, definitely.
That's really
It's
cool.
yeah, and it's pretty fun.
How
And
often,
and then
like
they
how big of a commitment or involvement is being in something like that?
It's about once a week, given
not
that there's
bad.
not like a major event on like one of the meeting time, and if not, they'll usually just move it. Um, Joining it wasn't like that too big of a commitment either, and do like some community service, go to like some networking events, had to like do some interviews, stuff like that. Basically, just show that you are actually interested, and not just like signing up.
Gotcha.
I think that community service aspect's kind of a good way to, as you were saying, kind of get that commitment and at the same time
Mhm.
do some good as well. And I think for maybe some of the listeners at home, this is kind of a good thing to bring up because offering your time out of just your goodwill sometimes can show a lot more character and kind of set you apart from some of the other people that you may be either working with or working against to get a position somewhere or whatnot. And I think it's something you're the first person to bring it up so far with mentioning it. And I think that, you know, there's no better way to really show what you're passionate about than by spending some time out of your busy schedule at some point and kind of doing some good for others around you. So
Yeah. Yeah. I would take it a step further even, and like, so if community service was part of your kind of like commitment to joining that, professional group, I think that the same concept, like offering a service or offering your time or offering your ability to do certain tasks in order to show that you're committed to something, is something that you can apply all over the place, even if they're not like, we require this to enter this group or something. Like if you're trying to meet somebody or you want time with a professional, offering them your time and help and kind of like whatever minuscule services you're capable of, still offering that shows that you're committed, and that maybe you have a higher likelihood of like forming a relationship or getting some of their time. Professionals value their time a lot. So that's a way in the door that I see and use frequently. So definitely kind of like a full little circle there, but cool stuff.
do some good and help yourself at the same time. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, exactly. So then you did a marketing internship. Was that just to get a little extra experience or something on your resume, or tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, my RA last year, my freshman year, he was a cheerleader, and then he told me, yeah, there's like a pretty cool marketing internship that the university puts on, and it's more sports marketing. So you're kind of doing all the busy work at the games, the basketball games, and really any other sport. I kind of only do the basketball games now, because I've been there for so long and I kind of know what's going on. But if you ever been to like any sporting event, they have like the little games during like halftime and the timeouts and stuff like that. So yeah, we do all that, and then definitely we get there beforehand, and like Marquette games, they have the big banners in the seats that say like "We are Marquette." We set those up. Really, anything that's behind the scenes of any athletic event we're doing. It's pretty cool in the sense that I made a lot of connections in the university with me being there so long before the games. Like I'll go to like a meeting and run through with like the actual marketing department of what's going to happen at the next game, like line by line, and like they'll cover a few other students that are also been there as long as I have. They'll kind of ask us, well, what's the student going to think if we do this? So it's really cool to actually use our inputs being a student on campus. And then furthermore, like with Marquette playing at the Pfizer Forum, I've made a good amount of connections with the Bucks, and yeah, even this last semester, one of the marketing guys from the Bucks was at our game beforehand, like just for whatever reason, and reached out to the head of marketing at Marquette and was like, "Hey, do you know any intern that would be able to come to a Bucks game and like work as like a plant for one of our games? Because obviously they know what's going on." So then he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I got 2 free tickets and like box seats to the Bucks game, but you just have to like dance for 10 seconds during the halftime." I'm like, "Yeah, for sure, I'll do that." So it's really cool in that sense. I have a pretty big network in like the Milwaukee marketing scene. Not that I'm in marketing, but you never know.
So does that.
We talk about how relationships are never a bad thing to have, even if it's not, directly in the industry or position you're chasing. They probably know people in the industries and positions you're chasing. So being able to put yourself in that marketing position sounds like you learned a ton and understand how like basketball games operate, especially from like a branding perspective, and focusing on the student experience is sweet.
The only downside I'll say is like I can't go to a professional sports game without kind of being on edge. Like if I'm like, I kind of feel like I need to be doing something. I can't just be standing around doing nothing or someone's going to yell at me.
You got that little voice in the back of your head saying, get back to work, even though it's your day off, or you're not even at a stadium where you would even be working. But it's really cool that you bring that up. I actually had a friend who, he didn't do what you did exactly. He was more on the promotional side, so the t-shirts and everything. I'm not sure. Maybe I misheard you. And I don't
no, during the like when I first started, I was like rolling all the t-shirts and like putting them in like the big gun that the mascot shoots and stuff like that.
So you were more involved with like the game-to-game operations kind of then?
Yeah.
Like things that were going on while it was occurring?
Yeah, it's kind of just like getting like almost like a promotion. Like if you've been there longer, they know you understand what's going on and you don't really need to be told what to do. So yeah, like when I first started, I was like in the gym, like rolling up like thousands of t-shirts and doing just random busy work. But now like sometimes I'll wear a headset and just stand like out in the corner of the court.
Nice. Moving up in the world. So there's one more thing we want to touch upon, and this would be your role as a teacher's assistant, a TA. Jet and I both kind of think that's one of those valuable skills, teaching people the material and kind of at the same time reinforcing it for yourself. So could you dig a little deeper on what that was like and what you did specifically?
Yeah, so that's for the lead class. There's 3 lead classes, I believe, and every Marquette business student has to take them. Obviously, I took the first one my freshman year, and then the dean of the college sent out an email that they were looking for students to like help be involved for the next like year of students that were taking lead. So like I put in my application and it went through. I got the job after like interviewing and all that. But yeah, so basically from like a day-to-day standpoint, when they would have class, I would sit in either the front or the back of the class. There was another TA that was with me, and the lecturer would do whatever was on the agenda for that day. And if someone was confused about whatever was going on, they could come to the back of the class or the front of the class and kind of ask us what was going on if they needed help. But more so, we hosted office hours to offer help for like the first accounting class or like the intro to business class that everyone takes their freshman year in the College of Business. So, and I mean, Jet, I don't know if you took accounting there, but a lot of people struggle through that. So
yeah, it sounds like you were almost more of like you took on a little bit of a tutor role instead of directly kind of assisting with like the career focused tasks of those lead courses. And for anyone that doesn't know, lead is like Marquette's entry level career prep classes, and they have 3 of them that you take over your time in the College of Business.
Yeah, it was almost like just a TA for all the intro business classes, because there were a lot of times where someone's like, I just don't know the difference between a debit and a credit. I'm like, all right, like, well, let's sit down and hammer this out.
What's up, everyone? Jet and Alex here, and we just wanted to take a moment to say we started Project Rookie because we know that choosing a career or pursuing an entrepreneurial idea can be hard.
We hope that through this podcast, we can create exposure to opportunities, inspire your inner entrepreneur, and create a community for young and hungry achievers just like you. Make sure to follow our podcast on your favorite listening platform or on Instagram and X at Project X Rookie. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
All right. So, on top of being insanely involved at school, you are also a little bit of a natural born entrepreneur. So we are going to dive into all of your entrepreneurial endeavors and kind of unpack what drove you to do some of these things and understand what those experiences have been like. So the first one I want to talk about is Toss and Found. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with disc golf, the game that you might see if you go to like a public park, it kind of blew up over the pandemic, which that's when I really got into it. Me and my one buddy, like that's all we did over the pandemic summer because there was nothing open. But with us being like pretty bad at it, we kind of kept running into the problem that we were just basically throwing our frisbees into the woods or the lake and to never see them again. And it wasn't until that next school year, one of my friends had like these RFID tags where he's like, yeah, like, look, I just have them all over and I just hold my phone to it and then like a function happens. So then I kind of got back into playing more disc golf throughout that year, and I kind of was thinking about the RFID tag thing, and I was like, well, what if I put one of these on the disc golf disc, and then threw it into the woods, and then someone found it in like 2 months, they could just hold their phone to it, and then a pop-up would come with all my information. So that's where the idea really got started. And then nothing really came of it from there because I was like, I don't have any idea how to make an app or really anything. Like, it's my senior year of high school. I'm just going to be hanging out, doing whatever. And then my business teacher came to me with this competition through UW Oshkosh where you could pitch a business idea and it had to be innovative in a sense. So I was like, maybe I'll like dig back into this thing and like submit my submission. I did that and they said, yeah, well, this was good enough. Like, we want you to actually come compete. So I did a lot of work actually building up the business and like making I made a low code app for the smartphone. Never released it formally because I didn't have any capital, but I could get it to, if I could like go on your phone, I could install it. And then, so like a couple of my friends had it. And then the main idea with it was to work in like the sense that you lose your disc, someone finds it, they return it to you, and then almost have like a reward system. So then there wasn't like an incentive to just steal other people's discs that they now spent money on the service to have returned to them. So yeah, we were kind of reaching out to a couple of like the big names in the disc golf industry, and I got to talk to a couple of people, and that was cool, but nothing really ever came to it. But then I presented my pitch to the business competition when the time came, and I got second place and won like I got $1,000 or something like that. So it was really cool to see that I actually, got some money out of it in the long run, though I never actually formally started any operations. But I did have also a function that I only really did through Instagram because I didn't want because I couldn't make the app public without the capital. And it kind of worked in a sense that it was like a marketplace for used discs. So that kind of worked in a sense. So never made any money off that. Just I kind of worked as a facilitator, and then the goal was to then move that over to the app, but never made the app formally. But it was still cool to like really get a lot of experience in the disc golf industry and then meeting some of the professionals, like the big names in the sport out of Wisconsin. So it was cool in that sense. Like, I definitely learned a lot about just entrepreneurship and then disc golf, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Like, my buddy loved it because we got to like go around and play disc golf with all these people.
That's awesome.
That's sweet.
I personally, I mean, you have a whole rap sheet of other things, but I personally am more, this experience holds a little bit more to me just because I participated in a similar time, sort of in a similar competition, actually kind of basically the same exact thing as you. Didn't end up fully going along with the business, took second place, kind of had to go through that whole ground up start. So for you to kind of come on here and say that and kind of dig in a little bit of your thought process and whatnot, like, I really thought that was awesome. And it really goes to show that there is opportunity in anything. And the only way to find such opportunity is to kind of have some sort of intuition to be looking for it. So whenever a problem in your own life occurs or you hear someone else talking about a problem, that little light bulb that switches up and says, hey, well, couldn't you maybe solve it like this? And you did it. You said, well, why isn't there a way that we can just find it or connect ourselves with them? We're spending all this money on these discs. Like, it's such a simple fix, and you went out and did it. And I really commend you for doing that, because it's not easy to do at all. Do you think maybe that down the line, if nothing comes from the bigger things or whatnot, or maybe you have like some free time, would this be something you'd want to pursue and kind of take it to that next step?
Yeah, definitely. If I had like some money to do it, and maybe like a team of people that actually knew how to like build an app or any like thing that would function on a computer, definitely. When meeting some of like the professionals in the disc golf scene, a lot of them were like, yeah, this is like a great idea, especially if you're not playing like competitively. If you're just like tossing it around like once a week just to like get outside, like that's a great idea, because they're fairly expensive. Like on the higher end, some of them are like $50, and just to throw that in the lake is like the worst feeling in the world. So
yeah, no, and you, like I said, you saw the problem and you came up with the solution and tried to make a business plan.
I really like what you said there, Alex, about like how if you're not looking for opportunities or, just expanding your awareness, paying attention to things, those opportunities won't show up or you'll miss them. So always being open to new ideas and paying attention to what's going on around you, maybe thinking about, how could I make XYZ thing I'm doing easier? Those are where those like opportunities or light bulb moments come from. But I do have like one question I think I'm curious about is like, so you had this idea, then you actually get it entered into this competition. Now, what is your process? Like, how did you say, okay, I need to learn about this, and this to make sure that I do this business proposal right, or I need to do this to reach out to the right experts? Like, what was your process? Where did you get information about how to make like a business proposal like this come together?
Yeah, so after the competition, the guy who facilitates like the College of Business in Oshkosh, or maybe like their innovation center, or it was the guy who basically put on the competition. He reached out to me. He goes, hey, if you have like time, can you come up to Oshkosh? I really want to talk to you about like the future of this idea. So I met with him, and he's like, I really like what you got here. Like, I could see this being a very useful thing. So then we talked for like about 2 hours about like just the game plan of what I was going to do to like get it running. And then from there, that was the beginning of the summer into my freshman year of college. So just like all summer, I was just kind of like going at it and just like reaching out to people, like bettering the app, putting in stuff on like the up and up functionality. There was one time too, we were gonna host like a tournament fundraiser. It never ended up happening because it got too close to when my school was starting. I met with this guy from Oshkosh, and he basically just helped me lay out like by step what I was gonna do to like get it self-sufficient. And then time just became a factor with like school starting. It never kind of went through with it, but the vision was there, definitely.
Super cool. Maybe it'll materialize someday when you have extra time and decide to revisit that idea.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. And then just by like luck, I had a mutual connection with like one of the better players of all disc golf, and who happened to live in Wisconsin, like pretty close to me. So that was just like a stroke of luck, but it definitely helped out a lot.
It sounds like you didn't stop with the Wisconsin high school business model competition. You kept going at Marquette by getting yourself involved with Blue and Gold Ventures. Can you tell us a little bit about Blue and Gold Ventures and what your involvement looks like?
Yeah, so the whole reason I guess I did that in the beginning, I wanted to just beef up my resume. I was like, I need to get an internship for the summer, and I need to have another job. Knew someone who did it the inaugural year on the beer side, and when I heard they were launching a coffee side, which was able to be done by students that were under 21, figured might as well like give it a shot. So then I applied, went to all the interviews, and they told me I had a job. Nice, perfect. And it was really cool because the coffee is in part with Stone Creek,
Mhm.
based in Milwaukee, just a coffee shop. They sourced all their coffee from like it's like 100% natural or something like that. But it's called like a B corporation, certified B corporation. So
Okay.
they're pretty environmentally friendly in that sense. But yeah, it was really cool to like meet all these people, like these like business executives at Stone Creek, and kind of work with them and how we're gonna make a Marquette coffee in that sense. And the product was a sampler box of 3 coffees that was like a Marquette Christmas theme. There was one called Jesuit Joe that was like a dark roast, and then there was Brew the
That's awesome.
Difference. I came up with the name for that one. And then there
Oh,
was
wow.
it was called Santa's Revenge. And then that was Stone Creek's signature holiday line that they always do. And they said we had to put that one directly in ours, but we could put a Marquette spin on it. So yeah, from that sense, it was really cool because just learning a lot about marketing and like just kind of the business development, organizing things on campus, working with a team of students and a team of adults at Marquette and at Stone Creek. It was really cool and made a lot of like lifelong connections that I think will be pretty useful in the future.
Was that just a semester long thing, or is that still currently going on the coffee side of it? Like with your team, I should
Yeah,
say?
I think with the beer, they're kind of just doing it in perpetuity.
Mhm.
The coffee, I think they're planning on doing something again, but I think they're kind of in the works of making the non-Christmas coffees,
Mhm.
just like a regular item you can buy. I had to I had to step down when I came here, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where they are at right now, but yeah, they were definitely planning to do the coffee like in perpetuity.
Yeah, I
So it's
guess.
something you
Sorry.
can be involved with. It's something you can be involved with kind of once you're starting with this Blue and Gold Ventures program, you can kind of continue to be involved, or do you have a term of service?
Oh, from that sense, yeah, I definitely think it's like a year thing, just so they can get
Okay.
like as many students in it as possible. But
Yeah, I was kind of curious how that
I think
worked out
now,
with you not being there anymore, if you were still involved or
oh
not.
yeah, I kind of just said like, sorry, I can't really do this after the semester, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. I think right
But
now
you can
they're
do.
kind of just using this semester to focus on like big picture things and how to get the next class, I guess, set up even better than my class was.
That's a super cool opportunity and experience. As you said before, you made a lot of lifetime connections, or long time connections, I should say. From this experience, what do you maybe think you're going to carry forth in your business ventures going forward, whether that be your own entrepreneurial ventures or through your professional career?
I guess just seeing how the business ran, and I never worked in anything in coffee before, so I guess from that sense, it gave me like a new perspective on a different type of business. Coffee is like a really, from what they made it seem anyway, it's like a really low margin business, and it's really easy to start a coffee company and just have it blow up in your face, especially how like if you want to source your coffee ethically. So yeah, it was really cool to see like how they run their operations and everything, and they do it all inside the building. Like
Mhm.
the main shop is at like the factory, I guess. So it was really
Mhm.
cool to see that. And then definitely from just new outlets on like marketing and stuff like that, because that was a lot of it, just kind of different approaches to different ways of thinking that I never would have like and thought I'd do something in whatever way. So it was really cool to see just the different minds work together. That was like the first time I'd say I really worked on like a team for something
Mhm.
meaningful other than like a part-time job or like a class project.
So your next adventure, I'll save for 1 second because we'll kind of wrap up your involvement in school and at Marquette. I want to hear from your perspective, like if there's maybe someone in high school or who's a freshman that's listening, how would you convince them from your perspective how valuable it is to be involved in things like this? And just even if you don't really know, like you didn't really have a passion for coffee probably, but you knew that the experience and the program would be valuable and you just went for it. So like how would you convince the value of being involved in all of these different areas of college to kind of the younger crowd?
Yeah, I mean, college is, a good time to develop yourself, kind of find out who you are, and everyone's trying to do the same exact thing as you. No one really has an idea of what's going on from that sense. So I just say if you get involved in as many things as possible. you'll find out what you like, find out what you don't like. There's a lot of things I signed up for, went to like one meeting. I'm like, I'm never going to come to this again. But especially with like more of the academic focus things, it really never hurts to just do it. You can always have there's always going to be a takeaway from no matter what you do. Like, even if you just hate something, at least you don't ever want to do that again or have to do that again. But like on the academic sides of things, like the coffee and the TA, kind of just learning how to work with other people has been like a really huge takeaway I've had. Definitely working with other people for a more meaningful task than like your high school part-time job.
Yeah.
And I know so many people on campus just like for whatever reason, and you can really build up a huge network in that sense. Like, me and Alex were talking about a mutual that I made at the coffee thing before we started this, and I would have never met her in my entire life if I hadn't done that. And there's just so many like connections that you make like that. Not even connections, just like friendships or acquaintances.
Yeah, that's a good point. And especially because through that mutual connection, I too wouldn't have made that without kind of taking a leap and doing a different experience for something that I personally didn't see myself going into, but thought just like yourself, hey, this might benefit me in some way. And in the end, if I don't like it, I still did it, and that's all right. And I know I don't like it from there. So I think pushing and expanding your boundaries and just allowing all those experiences to flow in is such a super important and crucial thing, especially during this time when it may seem as though you don't have a lot of extra free time to work in within your schedule. But however, when you do get to more of a full-time position or higher up in a professional setting, that little extra free time is not the same. It's not there at all. So, seize the day, take the moment, and really just try everything right now.
I can attest to that. I'm in the real world, and I swear you will never have more free time. Like, each day that goes on until maybe you retire or don't have to work anymore, you will never have more free time than you do now. And same when you're in high school, you'll never have more free time than you do at that point in time. And the thing is, like, as you grow, your ability to take on more and more tasks improves, and you kind of start just being more efficient, being able to do more things. And so in high school, it feels like there's not as much free time because you're not as efficient in getting all the stuff you feel like you have to get done. But I really like that you said there's a takeaway from everything. That is so true. If you're paying attention and you are excited about learning, you can find takeaways from every experience you have. And being able to grab those takeaways, I think, is really helpful in like conversations and relating to people. Like, if you have these takeaways from all your different experiences kind of on the top of your mind, anytime someone else had a similar experience, you can relate to them, start a conversation. That's like one of the main reasons, aside from learning, that I think having these takeaways or paying attention to what you learned from different experiences helps you in life outside of like a learning perspective. But it's a super valuable point that you just kind of snuck in there, and I wanted to like bring that out further and emphasize it, because I'm a huge proponent. There's a takeaway in everything, and you just got to do it. You just got to go to the first meeting, see if you like it or don't like it, and then make your decision moving forward. There's no risk in going to the first meeting. Zero risk. You either don't like it, that's your takeaway, or you're like, wow, I would have never thought I liked this, and now this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that you're talking about taking the risk, because I'm looking over at the fun one at our notes, and I feel like that in itself was kind of a risk to kind of get into. So, Jet, you maybe think we should transition into this one?
Yeah, so this is what we're calling the fun one of your kind of entrepreneurial experience. So I feel like I was like at the beginning of this idea with you, but let's just, I have two things, but first let's step back and explain kind of what your idea and concept were for Marshland Bounce Rentals, and what your involvement looks like in that company.
Yeah, so I was like, with the toss and found thing, I kind of always had that entrepreneurial mindset. And then I knew this last summer, my freshman summer, was hopefully going to be the only summer I didn't have an internship. And thankfully it is. I was just working I had a factory job lined up that I was going to work 4 days a week, just make like a bunch of money. But I wanted to do something more in the sense that I wanted it to be kind of like this exact situation now. I wanted to, if I ever was in an interview or whatever, someone to talk about it with me, especially like if in an interview, like it's a big hit in interviews. And I kind of figured doing something entrepreneurial would kind of show to an employer that I know how a business runs from the inside out. I did everything myself. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do that. But it didn't happen until winter break my freshman year. I was just like scrolling on TikTok, and it was like bouncy houses are the most profitable business that you'll have to spend the least time on. And I was like, okay, sure. I thought it was like one of like those TikTok guru videos, but I did a little diving into it. Found how much a bouncy house actually costs, which my first one was only like $400, and that's really nothing in the grand scheme of things. Looked at the different competitors in my area, saw that they were charging like $300 for a day, and I'm like, oh, I can clean up like after 2 rentals with this, and if not, I have a bouncy house. That's dope. So yeah, but it was winter break. I asked my buddy who had a truck, hey, can I borrow it for the day? Like, if I pay you back in gas, will you drive me down to the other side of Wisconsin and we can pick up a bouncy house? He's like, I'm not even going to ask, but like, let's go do it. So we picked up the first bouncy house from a shop in, I think, Mugwanago that just sells party equipment. So bought it, drove it back. My dad, he owns his own business and his office is just down the road, and he just rents from like the shop owner, and we were putting it in like our rental space that like we just have for like our cars or whatever. And the owner of the property was like, oh, like what'd you buy that for? And he's like, oh, well, my son, he bought it he's gonna rent it out. And the property owner is like, oh, I have a bunch of these, like I was gonna do this, but it just got too busy with like my other ventures. Can I connect with him? So then I started talking to this guy, and we worked out that I could use his bouncy houses, given that I get like a rental fee. So then I just tripled my like inventory like that, and then built the website, did a lot of marketing through Facebook ads, because that was like the cheapest thing I could find for like the most views, I guess. And it just kind of like that had happened. Like people were just sending in like reservations, requests. It actually sucked. Like the first like 5 I couldn't even do, because right after school, my sister planned for us to go to Peru for whatever reason. So I couldn't even do like the first couple, and I was like, wow, that sucked. Like this is kind of the good thing that this is the worst thing that's happened in my business, that I can't keep up with the demand. But I will never remember how difficult the first one was, because I just went by myself. My dad was like, all right, yeah, like you wanted to do this, like figure it out for yourself. So I bought a trailer for my Jetta. I bought an extension for my Jetta. I had to like screw this thing into my Jetta and get a trailer.
Oh boy.
And so then, did the first one, and it was pretty hard, because those things are not light by any means necessary. They're very heavy. They're like 200 pounds, and rolling that tarp around is just awful. So went home, kind of figured how I was gonna do it, and I got like a little cart for it, and it kind of takes a lot of the weight off, thankfully. But yeah, it just kind of kept going. And then when I got back to school, even in the fall, people were like, hey, I need these. Like, I need a bouncy house, like right now. So I had my parents and my cousin do it for me while I was, yeah. So I kind of, once the school year started, I had my dad and my cousin take care of like the operation side, and I was doing all the business and like calling people. We're like answering calls and like working out that. But I broke even on the year, but I broke even in the summer, and that was crazy because I had to buy all like the blowers. No, that's like what's really expensive. They're like $500 for one. So those costs are just a fortune.
Wow.
But I was able to break even. And then I think my biggest event was for like some fundraiser for a local firefighter. So I like put them all there, and it was at like this local carnival, and I cleaned up like $1,000, and that was awesome because I didn't have to do anything. And I think they're going to be a repeat customer. I think the only reason though, what I was doing right though, is that I undercut all the relative businesses by like 100%. I was only renting them out for like $100 a day, and everyone in the area goes for like 300. So I think that really was what allowed me to get so many customers, because people weren't trying to pay a fortune. I mean, just if I wasn't renting them out, it was costing me huge. And I didn't really, if I wasn't doing anything on a Saturday, I'd rather make just like $100 and minus the gas money.
I think that's super, like, first off, I think it's awesome that you bring this up because Jet and I started out Project Rookie kind of in a similar manner, however, opposite, because I approached Jet and was like, I am tired of seeing people on TikTok posting things about what they can do and buy this to make this much and that. And I was like, we need to, I don't know, try and like weed some of that out or kind of uncover what's actually happening. So I think it's like awesome and almost like full circle for the Project Rookie experience for at least Jet and I so far that, we have someone on here who actually saw one of those ideas, took it to heart and ran with it. And congrats to you for, making it to break even with your first summer in business. That's not easy to do at all, especially for a new business owner. So you mentioned that you were almost undercutting everybody in the area. How did you kind of get to that price model itself? Did you just say, I want to come in, and I know you mentioned it, $100 on a Saturday is better than not making $100 on a Saturday, but could you maybe dig a little bit more into that thought process?
Yeah, so definitely in the beginning, the ones that I got from the guy who I was renting them from, like on a per use basis, they weren't brand new. None of mine are brand new. It's like they're kind of like buying a bouncy house is almost like buying a car. Once it's off the lot, it loses like half its value. So I wasn't having. I knew I didn't have the product to compete with like the people who do it, like to put food on the table. So I kind of knew that I needed to price my rentals fairly in that sense. But I also knew that if someone's renting a bouncy house, they don't care if it looks a little old. So I kind of figured, I'll just do $100 a day. That's fair. That's just going to completely like kind of put a shock in like the microeconomy of bouncy houses, and it worked. I did end up raising my prices a bit more. I think I'm at like 120 now, or maybe 150 on a day, just because there was so much demand. I kind of had to slow it down in that sense. But I'm kind of working out to maybe this next summer have the prices be a little steeper, and not just do like daily rentals, because it's just kind of like a pain in the butt to like wake up, drive there, do it, and then bring it home like 5 hours later. Yeah, it's like kind of just puts a damper, not a damper, it takes up your whole day. And if there are people that are wanting it longer, then I might as well just kind of, I'll do $250 for the weekend and I'll get it on Sunday.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe you package it up into like, it's a little discount for 2 days. It seems like a deal to them. And then it also is like a deal to you. So that's really cool. I think that I started a lawn service when I was younger, probably I was around 16 when I first started wanting to do it. I didn't really make it an LLC till I was 18 because you technically have to be 18, I think. I can't remember at the time, but that's what I did too. I was like, I have time to spend, or I have like the time and attention to give to like 7 or 8 lawns in my neighborhood. And so like in order to get those people to switch to me, because like I'm a kid, so at the time, so I undercut the local lawn guys, and they definitely weren't that happy about it, because I was even surprised. Like everyone instantly switched, and I was like, oh wow, okay. And then I was like, and then I slowly started raising my prices over time. And similar to you, like you start lower by capturing a market, and then once your market is captured or your name's out there, you can increase your price and decrease your workload. So like by increasing your price, you probably lose some customers on the lower end, but that is less time you have to spend to make a similar amount of money. One question I kind of have is, from what you learn in school, like you're studying finance or investment management, and what's like the biggest takeaway from school, or something you learned in school that you applied for your business?
I would say that, because I mean, I was going into this out of just like the freshman year business education. I really kind of did a lot of independent study into accounting in finance, just because I'm trying to get ahead of like the people that are going to like an Ivy League school. with wanting to go into banking. So definitely kind of a mix of both of those things. Like, definitely on the accounting side, from financial accounting, I was able to handle all the books myself. For tax purposes, I just have like our accountant do it just because I'm not trying to do all that work. And if they're not going to charge me anymore, might as well. But definitely like keeping all the things in order, and then like my income statement and my balance sheet and my journal entries. Yeah, a lot of that from, like that first marketing class that everyone has to take. And then some of the marketing principles kind of got from the internship, from like the sense of how to like build a relationship with people, just kind of like learning how to do that. Like, and then the pricing models kind of just dove into that. I didn't really get that from school at all, but just about like basic marketing principles from like that first intro to business, where every chapter is like a different sector of business. It was definitely that first year of college helped a lot. I probably wouldn't have had as clear of an idea what was going on, given I didn't take that first year of college. But yeah. And then too, with like the microeconomics thing, like just understanding the concept of like supply and demand works, especially with like bouncy houses being like a very like niche product. There's not like a huge like economy for it. So I feel like a lot of those principles kind of carried over in that sense.
And that's definitely the point I was trying to make. Like, you just described kind of multiple areas of school and even areas that had nothing to do with school. And you grabbed little pieces of information from each of them and used all of that, packaged it up to drive your own personal business. And I think that's super valuable. It's the takeaways, right? It's the takeaways from all of those little things that you can dig through your brain and find to solve the problems that come with operating your own business.
Yeah. And like I kind of really, like I said, I was doing this in a sense to like, one, learn about entrepreneurship, make some like coin on the side, and then definitely just like build up that resume. And like it's kind of funny, I did like all this work and kind of spent my whole summer just to put like 3-line items on my resume.
Yeah, totally. I completely understand that. It's like, oh, okay, we filled up like a little bit of space.
How much money did you maybe use to start this business? And you can, fluff it a little bit if you want, make it less, or shoot straight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I took $550 out of my like savings account. 400 was for the first unit I bought, and then the other 150 was for like setting up the website, having kind of like a marketing budget for the whole summer. My dad, he bought like $1,000 worth of the blowers, like the things that keep them inflated. So I kind of just like put them under my accounts payable, and then like slowly started paying him back out of the, once the business was making money, and he was like, all right, can I have my money back? So in that sense, I was making money there. And yeah, so I started with like $550, and I think there's like, after paying everything off, there's like about $2,000 in the cash balance right now. So yeah, it really grew a lot.
Yeah,
And all
that's
the
awesome.
assets are fully depreciated too. So
So basically, you took we'll call it like a 0 interest loan from your dad, to upfront
yeah,
get
pretty much
some of the extra equipment. That's very similar to like with my lawn service. I took a loan from my parents to get the first riding mower. And then I had made a little bit of money using a push mower, but then I was like, okay, I need that. And then so like out of my profits, a percentage would go towards paying them back that loan. But I think it's a really cool thing to explore if you're fortunate enough to have parents willing to do it, like proving to them or like explaining to them your idea, and then explaining how you're going to pay it back, and like what percentage of any money you make will go directly to paying them back. Like for me, for the lawn service, like 100% of my profit was actually going back to pay off that mower first. And then I got, on the back end, once it was paid off, I got whatever profits were left on the back end. But you can structure it how you want. You just have to kind of like articulate your argument well, explain your vision, and explain your process. And if you're lucky enough, maybe that's an option for you to kind of get started with something.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to chime in and say, going along the same lines of that thought process, coming up with some solid figures, a business plan, how you're going to pay back the money, all those things translate into kind of getting investors in general. And so it is kind of important that if you do have some sort of an idea and you want to take it to the next step, that you take some time and really lay that foundation and kind of set that plan so you can hand it off to someone and then say, hey, I have this idea. I know it can be achieved. Here's some of the forecast. Here's some of my initial spending, blah, blah, blah. And then kind of maybe a timeline on their return on investment potentially, depending on how it's all structured. But if, you are really serious to wanting to start a business, there are a multitude of channels that you can go along if maybe you don't necessarily have the means to just ask a family member or someone along that. If you have a solid business plan, the work ethic, and the idea, you can still obtain all of these ideas and things that you want to do. And I just kind of wanted to put that out there just in case there's maybe some people who aren't necessarily in a situation where they can just ask someone and have that kind of risk-free loan taking to kind of go and start their business. There's plenty of options and opportunities to still get that funding if the idea is solid and if you are ready to put the work into it and can prove that.
Getting a little late in the episode, so we're gonna rapid fire a few questions,
sure.
and you can give us like quicker but insightful answers to them. So one is like, what do you think really drives your interest in entrepreneurship, or why have you, like, in all of your involvement, there's definitely a tendency or a heavier weight towards entrepreneurship. Where does that come from?
I think my dad, he's a huge entrepreneur. He's probably owned like maybe 7 or 8 businesses throughout his whole life, and then still owns one to this day. So I think kind of just growing up around him, seeing him like on the phone with people, and when I got older, kind of going to some of the jobs that he would do, hanging out in his office, just seeing how everything ran. I think kind of that thrill and that rush of seeing that you started something, be successful and, profitable is what really like kind of drove me to making both the companies that I've done. Kind of just knowing that you build something from the ground up, and like the sustainability of it, and then like having it kind of work and compete in like a market, basically. I think like my biggest like thrill out of like all of it was with the bouncy houses. When I like go to customers and they're like, oh yeah, we stopped going with who we've been going with the last 5 years because your pricing is just so much better. And I think kind of knowing that there's someone out there who was like, this kid's like undercutting me. I think that kind of like
You love that.
What, kind of like just like the hustle of it.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's rewarding to watch like a project you started actually come to fruition and be successful, and have external feedback too from customers. That's all super rewarding.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that, than getting someone coming back and saying, hey, you did a good job on this and you spent all that time working towards it. So there are maybe a few positives to being an entrepreneur, I guess you could say, besides just making a little bit of extra money on the side.
Alex, what's next?
Do you have any helpful strategies for dealing with a busy workload? I mean, we've kind of gone over that you've been bouncing back and forth, and you've kind of been keeping yourself busy. So how do you manage all of these day-to-day activities?
Look, calendar, definitely. I mean, I put all my classes on Outlook, everything, like work automatically in Outlook, and then especially back when I was at Marquette, when studying was a lot more harder. I guess the school was a bit more challenging. Just like blocking out what I'm going to do and just doing it, not just, oh, I'm just going to go to the library for a couple hours. Kind of like writing out line by line, I'm going to study this for X, Y, Z, then this and this, take a break, refresh. Kind of just scheduling out everything, because then you can't really get lost in your thoughts or like find yourself scrolling on Instagram for like an hour if you have like a set schedule of what's going on.
Yeah, that's I know that's something that benefits me, is kind of having that clear, defined what needs to be done in this amount of time, or setting an alarm and only giving myself 30 minutes, 2 hours, an hour to get it done. It kind of really helps put the pressure on and kind of make it actually get done, instead of just wasting a bunch of time and not doing what you really set out to do.
Yeah. I scheduled in college my time like homework blocks. I had kind of like free blocks for when I could do like whatever I want, and then the class blocks and work blocks. But I think that refining that even more to like project specific, like this project is going to be like 30, 40 minutes of my time today, and then I'm moving on to this. That probably would have been helpful, because I definitely got distracted with like moving back and forth between different homework projects and things to do. All right, last question. What are your long-term career goals? Where do you see yourself, post-graduation?
I want to be an investment banker. Obviously, the goals like work in Chicago or New York. There are a lot of great firms in Milwaukee that pay by the street. So if given I end up in Milwaukee when I graduate, that's fine too, But yeah, I really want to work in investment banking. I've kind of been hooked on this idea for like a year now. Network, like to do it. I've just been networking, utilizing the AIM program, just independent study. But yeah, I want to be an investment banking analyst, and if not that, private wealth, anywhere banking, but specifically iBanker.
That's sweet. Can you give us like a quick little minute of like what an investment banker does for the listeners at home that might not know?
Yeah, so there's kind of like two routes to it. There's like the capital market side, and then there's the mergers and acquisition side. So the capital markets, they kind of do through either equity or debt. They do funding for a company, and like on the equity capital markets, they're the ones that are listing IPOs, stuff like that. And then a mergers and acquisition side, that's more company merging or acquiring another company. So it's a lot of like Excel modeling, meeting with clients, kind of going on road shows, pitching companies to other companies.
Yeah. And it's a grind, right?
Super interesting.
Yeah, I think we work like 80 to 100 hours a week. Your like first 3 years.
So we're pushing these business ideas a little farther down the road.
No, that's
All right.
super cool. That's awesome. It's I really, wish you the best, man. It was great talking to you. And I definitely
this is awesome.
It was really interesting kind of seeing your progression and only being so, you're still in the like first half of your undergrad as well. So like the fact that you already have all this stuff under your belt and you're thinking in the manner that you are, props to you. Like, great job. I really hope, things work out for you in the future. And thanks for talking
really
to us.
Me too.
Yeah, you definitely have a solid head on your shoulders. And I think that the younger audience listening to this is going to find a lot of value in what you had to say. And it's super cool how we kind of just saw your growth over the course of this episode. And it's crazy that I forget you're a sophomore until Alex just said that. So yeah, very impressive, super cool. And thanks for spending the time with us. We appreciate it. All right. And that's the pod. If you enjoy the show, it'd mean the world for you to leave us a review and share it with your friends. Make sure to follow our podcast on your favorite listening platform. And if you're joining us on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our new episodes. Also, check us out on social media. We're at Project X Rookie on both Instagram and X. We'd love to chat with you in the comments or in our DMs. Thank you for listening, and as always, I hope we're helping you take control of what's next. Catch you next time.